Hey, welcome to another episode of GeekOutdoors.com. Now, when we're using our computers every day, the majority of times everything's fine. You know, we're able to browse the web, we play our games, we're able to spend all our time on YouTube and Facebook. However, there are times when we might have problems. You know, we might have a system crash, or we might have a virus or malware, or we might have accidentally deleted something that we really didn't intend to. So with that being said, that's when it's super duper important that we have some type of backup so that we can recover from. Unfortunately, a lot of us, we just don't do that. We don't create backups so that we can have recovery from. So that's what I'm going to be covering today. And this is actually part of my series on making the move from Windows or Mac over to Linux. And so if you haven't seen my original episode where I show you how to install VirtualBox and then install Linux Mint inside of that, be sure to check it out in the description area below. Now for this episode, I'm not going to be doing this in the virtual machine. I'll be doing it on my computer right here. And so the whole point of this particular episode is to show you tools that you can use to back up the files that are important to you and also recover them. This is not really an episode to show you how to restore everything that you had on your system, meaning all your programs, the way everything is set up, all your files and everything. That's really not the point of this. And so for a lot of people, their method of backups and recovery is simply copy and pasting whatever important files I have over to another drive, over to a flash drive or an external drive, whatever the case might be. And for a lot of people, including myself, that's pretty much the simplest method for us. However, that's not the best method, obviously, because number one, people forget. They forget to do that. And number two, manually copying and pasting, that's just a pain. I'd rather have something that is easier to do. So that's why we have these tools. And so the first thing I'm going to talk about is the built-in backup tool and recovery tool that's built into Linux Mint. And also I'm going to talk about one that I use myself, which is more advanced and a lot easier to me to use. And so if you go into your menu and you go to administration, you'll notice something called backup tool. Okay, so let's go ahead and open that. You're going to have to put in your password. And the backup tool has gotten so much better versus previous versions of it. It's a very simple tool to use, in my opinion. However, it's very basic. Okay, so I'm not going to go over the software backups and restore, because that's probably something we're going to talk about in a future episode. So here I'm really going to be talking about backing up your files and then restoring from them. So just like copy and paste, except you're using this tool instead. So the first thing you want to do is go to backup files. Okay, so we'll go here. And here, obviously what you're going to do first is choose the actual source of the file or folder that you want to back up from. And in this case, I'm going to back up my documents folder. Okay, so I'm not going to back up any files in here. I just want to back up the whole folder and all the files in there. So you just choose that folder and click on open. Okay, and now you're going to choose the destination. Okay, in this case I do have a folder here inside my secondary drive that I want to actually back it up in. And so let me go here to right there, and that's where I want to save everything. It's in this backups folder. Okay, so you also want to look here in your advanced option. Okay, I wouldn't put anything in the description. If you wanted to, you can. Okay, but it's not really necessary. But this is where it's really, really important. So the output is how you wanted this copied over. You could either have it as a compressed file, whether it's a tar, BZ2, or GZ file, okay, like a zip file in the Windows world. But if you do that, the positives of doing that is that the file size is going to be smaller. The bad part of it is you're still going to have to uncompress it. I prefer preserved structure. So it's just basically a very simple copy and paste. So whatever you had copied, it'll have it exactly the same. And I wouldn't really mess with any of these. Okay, they're just fine. And I'm going to copy, like I said, this documents folder from here over to my backups folder on my external drive. Okay, or in this case, my secondary drive. Okay, and it could be any drive. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to go forward, and just remember I'm copying the documents folder here to this backup folder right here. So I'm going to minimize this, and let's go ahead and do that. Let's go forward, And you could also exclude files or directories. Say like that folder had a lot of different files and directories, you could exclude it as well, which is a nice feature to have. Let's go ahead and go forward and apply. And there it is. So it copied everything from that folder over to here. Okay. Now I do want to mention something. If you notice, it didn't copy the folder name documents over to backups. Okay, it just copied all the contents. Now if you wanted to copy exactly the same folder, then you're gonna have to create a folder. Okay, so you could create it the same name and then copy everything in there. Okay, so that is the backup. That's very simple, as you could see there. Now there's also a restore function, so you have to go back and open it again. That's kind of a pain that you can't continue working on the same tool. So here you can restore a file. Okay, so you can restore from a archive file, which we didn't do, or you could restore from a directory. Okay, so that's where the whole option of preserve and zip files or compressed files comes into play. But I'm going to say directory because that's what I did earlier. So the source, I'm going to choose it right here. It's going to be from my backup, so I want to restore from this. Okay, and then the destination, I'm gonna go ahead and just put it in my my home folder right here. Okay, or actually this home folder. Okay, so you'll go ahead and there's not really any options here, really, kind of, but not really. Just leave that the way it is. Go forward, and then it should copy it right here in the home folder, all the files that were in that folder. Okay, so let's go ahead and apply, and there it is. So all the files that I had before inside that folder are copied here. And obviously the better way to do it is actually create a folder and then have it copied directly into that folder, but I just wanted to show you how simple that was. See, so very, very simple. So I'm gonna delete all of these right here. So very simple backup and restore tool or recover tool. It's pretty awesome. Okay, and I really, like I said, I really feel like it's gotten a lot better versus what it used to be. So like I said, that's under administration and backup tool if you're on Linux Mint. And that is a very, very useful tool, very simple. And I think that it did have a scheduling feature. Well, no, that's not what I wanted to do, but let me see if it's there. I think it did have a scheduling feature. Might be wrong with that. Yeah, it didn't have one. But, you know, this is something that you would do every once in a while, okay? Depending on how many files that you have, okay? And depending on really how, sensitive you are to losing your data, like I do it like once, I would say like once or twice a month, okay? So that is the very simple backup and restore or recover tool. However, there are other options out there and with more advanced features. Okay, so you could find that in your software manager. So if you went to administration and then software manager and it comes up here, this is the tool that I use. I really, really love this tool. It's very powerful, but also simple as well. So you would just press enter, and it's called Grsync. Okay, and it's awesome. Okay, now a lot of these tools, you'll notice that they're actually front ends, meaning they're a graphical user interface for actually tools that are already built into Linux. Linux has a lot of built-in tools already. However, it's like all command line, and so that's probably not something that the majority of Windows users or even users in general are familiar with. But if you go to your terminal, there is a tool already called Rsync. Okay. And this is basically a tool that will allow you to, like copy and, save your files from one place to another. And there are many, many, many options here. However, for most people, this is really not something that they would, I think, would want to do, like just to do copies and paste. I mean, it's all command line. So unless you know what you're doing in terms of command lines, this is probably not something that most people want to do. Most people want to do a simple GUI tool, okay, which is why Grsync is available. So this is basically a nice GUI interface for this tool that you see right here. And so I've already downloaded and installed this. So let me show you how that works. So you go here, once you've installed it, you go to your, should be under administration in Grsync. And this is the tool right here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you some stuff that I will be backing up from my main machine over to my external drive. Okay, so here I have my Geek Outdoors folder, and if you see here, I have some new stuff. So if I go back here, this is my Toshiba drive right here. And so what I wanted to do here was, obviously, I just wanted to copy over the new stuff that I had. Okay, so this is actually my external drive where I save everything. And if you notice, I'm up to episode 309. However, on my main machine, I have more episodes than that. Okay, and so that's what I wanted to back up today. Okay, so with the Rsync, it's very similar but way more advanced than the simple backup tool. And I'm gonna bring it down here so then you can see it copying. Okay, so just remember, this is my main computer and this is my external backup drive. Okay, so before I start, let me go over some of the things that this tool has. And so the first thing is, obviously, you could choose your source destination. Okay, so here I chose this folder. Okay, and then the destination is my external drive. Now here's one thing that I definitely want to mention, that your destination, okay, if you choose the exact same name as your actual, like if you did that, right? Well, what would happen is it would copy everything here, and then it would create a new folder inside this destination, and it would call it Geek Outdoors. So I would have another folder called Geek Outdoors within Geek Outdoors, and that's not what I want to do. Okay, and so I already have a folder there with that name. Okay, I just want to copy the files over. Now you can do something like this, okay, where it will not create a brand new folder. It'll just copy all the contents from here into the same folder name. Okay, but you know, that's another manual process, and some people might forget to put that /. The easiest way is just choose your whole drive. So we choose your whole drive, and see what it would do is on the destination, whenever it's copying stuff over, if it sees that the folder's already there, obviously, then it'll just copy the necessary files over. So it wouldn't necessarily create a new folder, okay, which is a lot easier than having to remember to put that /. So I just wanted to put that out there. So just on your destination, just choose the external drive you want to put it in, and it will go ahead and copy all the same files or the right files that you want in the same folder name, okay, if you already have it there. Okay, now there are some options here, but I'm going to go over the other tabs first. Now the first thing is advanced options. Unless you know what these things are, I wouldn't mess with them. The actual default is this protect remote args. Just leave that there. And the most important thing here in extra options, be sure you choose this check mark, run as super user. Okay, so the reason you want to do that is, say if you are backing up like your home folder and you have multiple users within there, within your actual Linux system, every one of them is going to have their own folders, and the super user it has basically the root user has permissions for everything. Okay, so just be sure to check that. You know, if you don't understand permissions, don't worry about it. Choose this so that you won't have any problems in the future. Okay, so with that out of the way, let's go back to this part right here. Okay, this is where you're going to be spending all your time. And so obviously this part right here, source and destination, that's pretty self-explanatory. And down here, there's a lot of options. Okay, so here, these are the ones that I check myself: preserve the time, preserve owner, permissions, and group. Okay, you want to do that. Okay, verbose, I would check that as well, so it shows information, and you'll see what I mean. And then also a transfer progress, you know, you want to do that as well. So, and you'll see all of that whenever I run it. And then these other options. Okay, now this one right here, this is delete on destination. Okay, so what that means is, say your source directory, right? Say you deleted a folder. Okay, And then when you're copying it over, what the tool would do is, if it says, oh, well, I deleted it here, then I'll also delete it on this source directory as well. I myself, I don't do that, okay? But if you want a one exact copy of what you have here to your source, then you could do that. But for me, I don't do that because I don't want to accidentally delete something that is a backup. You know, maybe I didn't want it on my main directory, but I want it still here, so I leave that unchecked, okay? But that's really up to you. Now another option is that ignore existing. So what this would do is, hey, if it sees the same folder in the source and in the destination, then it'll ignore that. But for myself, I don't ignore that because sometimes I might have made updates to that file or folder and I want those updates to come here, so I don't want it to ignore that. Now another option right here is to skip newer. So what that means is, on your destination source, if you already have a newer file or folder, then this will skip it, okay? Which is what I do. I don't see myself having a newer version on my backup than I do on my source for the same exact file or directory, so I have that checked, okay? Now here, do not leave file system. I wouldn't do that. I don't really understand what that means there, so I would not leave that checked, okay? I would leave that unchecked. Here, you could check this as well to where it will only look at the actual size of the files and see if they're the same, okay? So I would just leave that unchecked. Now here, this is important. If you are going to be using these files or folders on a Windows operating system as well, I would definitely check this, and it will also make this Windows compatible with the NTFS system as well. So that is really up to you whether or not you're using Windows, okay? Now up here, this is basically for sessions. You could delete this session, you could create a new session. And I like these little you know, like help menus right here, so it tells you what's going on. And here, this is really, really important, okay? This is actually to do a test run, so it won't actually do anything, but it's going to show you what it is doing, which is very important, and which I'm going to go through as well, and which I recommend you do before you do anything. And here is actually to do the actual run. So like I said, I would not do this right away. I would do this first to make sure that you're doing exactly what you want, because if you put the wrong commands, you could really mess up your actual backups, okay? So so here, this is what I want to do, and so here I'm going to go ahead and do a dry run, okay? You're going to put in your password, and it takes like a second or two, depends. And see here, it's showing you exactly what it's going to do. So here, this rsync command is actually going to be copying all these files over from my source over to my destination. And as you can see here, you know, there's some new folders, new files that are not in my destination that it's going to copy. See, like here it stops at 309, and here I have more than 309, and then as you can see here, it's more than 309. So yeah, that looks like it's going to be copying the right stuff, okay? So what's cool with this also is that this actual program, it will remember your last session. So whenever you do copy and copy and back up your systems in the future, it does incremental backup, so it won't do everything every single time. It'll just see what's changed, and so that'll save you a lot of time to do that. So let's go ahead and run this, and I've already checked it to make sure it's what I want. So I'm going to go ahead and do the full run. Put in your password, and see, what you see is there is the commands, and here you could do this right as well. You could see the actual output, and here I'm looking right here, and look, it's actually already created some new stuff, and this program runs it really, really fast, you know, and so it's way faster in my opinion than even a copy and paste at times, which is really, really cool. So I'm going to go ahead and let that run, and I'll come back to this once it's done. Okay, so that is it. It's done copying or backing up from my source directory over to my actual destination directory, and that took about 6 minutes and 37 seconds, which is pretty fast because I have gigs, like over 100, almost 200 gigs of data here. And so let's go ahead and close that, and luckily the tool is still up. So here, here's my destination. Let me refresh this real quick, make sure that's there. Awesome. So now if you remember earlier, I only went up to episode 309 on my destination folder. But now I have all these other ones as well. And so like, let's go ahead and go to 310. I got these here, right? So if I go here, 310. Oh yeah, it's exactly the same. So that is really, really awesome right there. And it's very quick. You know, I'm not sure how this program works underneath, but it's pretty awesome. So yeah, that is an awesome tool, and everything is backed up, you know, and so I can also recover from this as well. And if you go here, it's very similar to how the basic backup tool work for Linux Mint as well. So here, instead of going from the source on your computer, you would choose the source from your actual backup file, or I'm sorry, your backup drive, and then you would put it in your computer, your source here. So it works the same. You would just change the source and destination. Okay, so that is it for this particular episode for backup and recovery. This awesome tool right here. I love Grsync, but as I said earlier, you know, you also have your default backup tool right here as well. And there are many other backup, recovery, and also restore tools available on Linux. You could do some pretty advanced stuff. You know, you could store whole programs and everything else. You know, you could schedule things. So, you know, this is really for the very basic portions, but very important as well. So that is it for this episode. If you had any thoughts on backup and recovery or system restores, be sure to leave it in the comments area below. And as always, if you did get a lot of value out of these videos, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. And if you wanted to support my channel further, you could do that at patreon.com/geekoutdoors. Thanks for watching. See you in another episode. Thanks for checking out this episode. And as always, if you like these videos, be sure to click on the subscribe button. And for full written content, audio content, and additional geek stuff, head over to geekoutdoors.com, and I'll see you outdoors on the very next episode.